Hi, everyone, and welcome to another round of development theories and administration. In today's lecture, we shall be discussing issues that are very pertinent to the African economy and the economies of other third world societies. As there's no gainsaying that the economic woes and challenges that third world economies are faced with are not only difficult for those economies to grapple with, but have consequences of immeasurable magnitude that continues to retard the extent of development and the welfare of the people within these environments. There is equally no gainsaying that the economic crisis that ravages endlessly within the confines of the environment of third world economies or underdeveloped economies is at an alarming rate. There's equally no gainsaying that it is almost impossible for the actualization of the essence of living, or there's no gainsaying that the material conditions for the existence of people within this underdeveloped society is at its lowest ebb. Hence, life becomes very difficult, and in the words of Thomas Hobbes, life becomes brutish, nasty, and short, owing to the fact that these societies and the citizens of these societies are unable to meet their basic needs as they live below the poverty line and continue to wallow endlessly in abject poverty and penury. So having said that, one would ordinarily want to know why these economies are faced with the kind of challenges and economic cataclysm that they are faced with. Before now, we had discussed various theories of development. We have discussed the perspectives that looked at economic growth and development from a centrally planned society. We have looked at those that tend to profess a capitalism and the forces of demand and supply to dictate the commanding heights of the economy. We have sought to also look at certain theories that have sought to provide an explanation to why countries are underdeveloped, ranging from the fact that they lay claim to the existence of values that are inimical to development, or the coexistence of pre-capitalist modes, side-by-side capitalist modes in those economies, and these are impediments to economic development. So having said all that, it is commonsensical for one to understand that a society where the economy does not meet the needs and the requirements of all and sundry is one where there is high levels of poverty, high levels of illiteracy, high levels of maternal and child mortality rates, poor infrastructural facilities, and a host of other activities that does not suit the nature of the human being in modern society. So it is quite unfortunate that third world countries, particularly underdeveloped countries, are faced with these challenges. Before now, we had discussed theories from third world scholars that have sought to explain the challenges of development as a resultant effect of the activities of the more developed societies in the environments of the third world countries, ranging from insistence on the production of cash crops instead of food crops, thereby increasing the hunger level and the malnutrition level of the citizens of third world countries, to the issues of exploitation of raw materials and the issues of brain drain and a host of others. However, there are different perspectives to these situations, to the understanding of these situations, and we shall look at them all as we make progress in this study. However, in today's lecture, we shall be discussing features of underdevelopment. What are the checklists or the indices of underdevelopment in underdeveloped societies? Having said that, I'll be sharing my screen with you at the moment so that we drive home our points together. So it is safe for us to begin by saying, in the humanities, like in many other similar disciplines, we learn that every concept operates within an environment. And the concept of development administration, theories, and planning revolve and operate within the confines of an environment. However, emphasis will be placed on the economic environment at this point. It is worthy of note that the economic situation of today's developing countries was initially characterized by underdevelopment. Here we will discuss the key economic features of underdevelopment and when country begins to move on the path of development. The objectives at the end of this lecture is that students should be able to explain the economic features of underdeveloped economy, evaluate the characteristics of underdeveloped economy. So from what this is saying is that in as much as so many activities operate within the confines of an environment, emphasis in today's lecture will be placed on the economic indicators of development and underdevelopment and what propagates development and what propagates underdevelopment and the practices that are typical characteristics of an underdeveloped society would equally be looked at. So having said that, it is safe for us to continue by saying there is no gainsaying that the economy of a developed society is predominantly agrarian and revolves around agriculture. Typically, up to 80% of the labor force is engaged in agriculture. Production is based on age-old technology. It's largely for subsistence and carried out under feudal relations. From this very point made here, it is understandable that the economies of a developed society is not one where claims can be laid to industrial revolutions of the advanced societies or those where the commanding heights of the economy are now being facilitated by technology and other variables that are beyond what is obtainable in the third world countries. So an underdeveloped society is one where even technology at its lowest ebb, the practice of agriculture is basically for subsistence, and more than 80% of its labor force indulge in agriculture as against what is obtainable in the advanced countries. Like we read of agriculture in the United States of America, where it is said that about 6% of the entire population is what engages in agriculture. Over here, more than 80% of the population feeds and derives their means of livelihood through agriculture. And there's not much that can be done in that respect. So having said that, even the land tenure system that promotes agriculture is one that is not in favor or is biased against the farmers in themselves. So most times they farm and then their produce are handed to feudal lords or land